In this video, I will discuss more advanced capabilities of the Preview tab in the Annotator for Clinical Data Configuration Editor and how to interpret the ACD analytic results based on your cartridge model. You can see I've already opened up a cartridge called Lupus Cartridge, and it has a few artifacts in it, such as the UMLS 2019 AA Dictionary, an attribute set called Lupus Attribute Clinical, and a filter called Lupus Filter. I showed in a prior video that filters can include concepts. However, in this case, the lupus filter is actually going to be excluding concepts, which I will demonstrate for you later. Clicking on the preview button in the top right takes us to preview mode, where we can enter some text into this box to run through the annotator for clinical data. I will now do that by clicking the play button on the top left, which again sends this unstructured text through the annotator for clinical data, using my lupus cartridge and the artifacts in it as the configuration. The results are then annotated in this box on the left and summarized in the right panel. The types of concepts found in the text are listed under this concept section with a number next to the type to show how many concepts of each type were found. Their concepts are also underlined in the annotation view on the left. Clinical attributes are indicated in the text by highlights. Hovering over the text ANA in the left box shows us all of the entities that are shown over that text. And you can see the first one is an attribute. It shows that the attribute is over the full text of ANA is positive. The name of the attribute is ANA, and the preferred name is antibodies nuclear. It also has a value of positive. The information for clinical attributes is summarized in the right pane under the clinical attributes section. You can see the first one is ANA with that preferred name of antibodies anti-nuclear that I showed before, and the value of positive. And again, the number of instances of that particular value preferred name combination for that attribute is shown in the number on the right. Hovering back over ANA and scrolling down shows us the rest of the entities that were found over that text. You can see we have a few concept values that were found. And if we scroll down even further, there were some concepts found over this text with various CUIs and various preferred names. Contextual information found by ACD is also displayed in preview, such as the concept values that I showed you, or results from the negation, hypothetical, or disambiguation annotators. Font colors denote some contextual information. For example, at the end here, you can see that the text oral lesions is a bright orange. Hovering over that shows that the concept oral lesions for CUI C0149744 has the value of negated true, which is why the text, instead of being the usual black, is that bright orange color, which you can also see here in the negated section for that concept. Scrolling down on this summary right pane allows you to also see contextual spans that are in the text. And clicking on, for example, the negated span will then highlight the negated spans that were found with the corresponding color. Suppose this text is text that I usually use to determine the accuracy of my model. Instead of having to copy and paste this text into this box every single time, we have the ability to save documents within your cartridge. You can do this by clicking on the text dropdown right here and clicking the option to save as. This allows you to create a new sample text, or if you had already saved some text, you would be able to overwrite that text if you wanted. I'm going to call this my lupus example. You can see the text that I am saving in this text box, and I am able to also mark this text as the preferred text for the cartridge. Marking it as the preferred text means that anytime that a user enters the lupus cartridge and enters preview mode, this is the text that would be automatically loaded up within preview. I am going to use it as the preferred text and save. And now if I go into the drop down here, you can see the saved text that I have just created is listed and marked with a star to denote that it is a preferred, the preferred text. The X button allows me to delete the text if I wish to. Once text is saved, you can also save the analytic results from ACD to associate with that text. You can do this in the compare dropdown along the right, where it says to save results. I'm going to save the current ACD results, and I will call this lupus results with filter, and I will save that. Now, if I change something about my model, for example, I am going to delete the filter out of here, I can compare my new model with those saved results from earlier when I ran it with the cartridge when it had the filter in it. So I'll do that now by running my ACD again. And I am going to now go to the compare dropdown, and you can see that my saved result from before, lupus results with filter, is here, and I can click on that, and it enters comparison mode. Now that filter that I got rid of was excluding concepts with surface forms such as patient, or is, a, and given. And we can see now that this has, since I got rid of that filter, the results that I'm getting from ACD have now changed. You can see that it is now marked as being in comparison mode, and the annotations that we are seeing along the left are not as colorful as they were before. At the bottom, that tells you what the colors now mean, as they have different meaning from before, through the ones that we have. Gray annotations indicate that the entity over the span that is indicated by that notation existed in both results. For example, if I hover over the text for ear infection, since it is gray colored, that means that the concept C0699744 for ear infection was found both in the ACD result that I saved and in the ACD result that I just ran after I had removed the filter from my cartridge. Green indicates that the entity exists in the new result, but not in the old result. In other words, the new model is finding the entity, but the old model did not. One example of this is patient. As I mentioned, that filter that I had in my cartridge previously was filtering out any concepts found over the text patient. Now, since I removed that filter from my cartridge and reran ACD, that concept is no longer being filtered out, and therefore it is a green entity because it is new in my new ACD result. You could also see red annotations in comparison mode, which indicates that the entity over a span no longer exists or is no longer being found due to the changes made to the model in between results. And a yellow annotation means the entity was found in both results, but the information for the entity is different. You can also compare between recent runs of ACD. If I click on this compare menu again, you can see, again, that saved result, but you can also see a time-stamped result from ACD, and I could compare to that if I so wished. You can edit the sample text or simply rerun ACD by clicking the play button. You also have the ability to save flows in your cartridge. A flow is a set of annotators that ACD will run with your unstructured text and your cartridge model. The play button automatically runs either with a preferred flow, which I will show, or with whatever flow is indicated in this text here, which often, if it says select annotators, is the default flow that is determined based on the artifacts in your cartridge. You can edit the current flow by clicking on this drop down here and hovering over the flows shown and changing the annotators that are checked. Here is also where you can create new flows with this new button, or by saving a flow as a new flow. I am going to run now with some of the care insight annotators that are pre-built. In this example, I'm going to run with procedure and symptom disease. I did that. I want to save this flow as a new flow. I can do this by clicking that Save As button. You can see a new modal pops up, and I will name this flow lupus flow. And I'm going to, again, mark this as the preferred flow for this cartridge. This is similar to the preferred document. So now if a user comes into this lupus cartridge and goes to preview mode, instead of being that default select annotators flow as the first flow that shows up, this lupus flow will be the first flow that ACD will run with. You can see the annotators that were checked before are still checked, and we have this medication and symptom disease annotator that I checked. I'm going to save this flow, and now you can see that the flow is marked as lupus flow, and clicking the run button will now run this flow's set of annotators through ACD. You can see I'm getting some new dotted underlines, which indicate that you are having care insights annotations coming back. Hovering over this shows those care insights annotations, which we can see by the type of ACI symptom disease indicator, which means it is coming from that symptom disease annotator. And there's additional information that comes back with these annotations, such as the ICD-9 and TUN codes and SNOMED concept identifiers from the symptom disease annotator. Again, these care insights annotations are summarized in the bottom of the right panel under the care insights section. You can also see some additional information on flows. If I hover back on the lupus flow and open up that advanced modal, you can see there's a few extra options in the selected annotators, and there's also a section for selecting output annotations. Controlling the output annotations allows you to determine what entities are returned from the annotator for clinical data. All of the annotators that are checked in your flow will still be run, but after they are done processing the text, if you would not like to return certain annotations, you can uncheck those boxes here. For example, maybe I've decided that attributes are really what I'm interested in actually using in my application, and I'm not so interested in the actual concepts. I can unselect the concept and concept values from the output annotations, save this flow, and now clicking on this play button is again going to run the flow denoted here, which is the lupus flow that I just saved. Click on that, and now you can see that even though concept detection and concept value is still being run in order to find those attributes, those are not actually being shown in my results because I'm not interested in them. Another way to run flows is to simply select the flow in this drop-down menu. So if I would like to switch back to the selected annotators flow, say I want to see those concepts again, I can simply click on that flow in the drop-down and it will run with that flow instead. To recap, I was able to save this text as a document so that I could quickly and easily reuse it when iterating on my cartridge. I also saved the ACD document so that I could compare how changes made to my model will impact the results the annotator for clinical data is finding for my text. I'm able to change what annotators are running in ACD by saving a flow or by changing the annotators run in my current flow.